Welcome to another episode of Coffee with Alissa. Today, we're going to be talking with two wonderful women from our firm, Andrea Pfaadt, Director of Business Development at Schneider Downs, and Jessica Ellicott, Data and Communications Specialist from our Wealth Management Group. I've brought these two team members on as a special feature for International Women's Day so that we can talk to you about Schneider Downs, our Focus on Women group, and all of the wonderful initiatives that are being spearheaded within our firm. Welcome, Andrea and Jess, and thank you for taking time to talk with me. How are you today?
Doing well. Thank you so much for having us. We're excited.
Thank you, Alissa. I'm very excited to be a part of this and also be working side by side with Jess.
Yeah, absolutely. So Andrea and Jess are in our Columbus office, but luckily with all the benefits of technology, we get to work together a lot and see each other. So let's start out with the first question. Tell us a little bit more about the Power Committee, which is a part of the SD Focus on Women group, what the mission of the group is, and what your roles are within the group.
Sure. Thank you, Alissa. I am the president of the Power Committee, and POWER stands for Programming and Outreach for Women Employees on the Rise. And the mission is to educate, to empower, and to amplify female voices within Schneider Downs.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better. I actually was the vice president. I just recently stepped down to take on some more responsibilities in wealth management, but it's definitely a group that I'm very passionate about.
Well, you've both done an incredible job advancing that mission, and I've enjoyed working with both of you, putting on some really fun events and activities for the firm. So why is Focus on Women so important, and what drew you towards joining this group?
I was raised by a very strong and independent mother who taught me to use my voice for good. And I am very involved in several women's associations here in the Columbus community. I've been serving on the Women's Fund of Central Ohio board for the past 4 years. And it's something that I am just very, very passionate about. And I receive great strength from being involved with such a wonderful organization. I think it's important to focus on women within Schneider Downs so that we can allow every woman in the firm to have an equal opportunity to advance in her career and to also grow professionally and personally so that we can attract and retain the best power within our community here in Schneider Downs.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So I also came from a household with a very strong female voice. And then not only my father was a great advocate as well. I grew up in a household where gender didn't really make a difference in what you could and couldn't do. And it wasn't until post-college when I had joined the working world when I really started to see that people do treat you differently based on your gender. So I think the fact that SD has a group that is focusing on making sure that we are equal across the board and that there are safe spaces for us to be able to communicate appropriately is like miles ahead of some of the other organizations that I've been a part of previously.
And I will say too, that carries forward into client relationships as well. Just, creating that awareness about women, what women want from client relationships. I think it really helps the men and women of our firm to be able to communicate better, to service our clients better, and just have a general awareness.
100%. I think awareness is the first step.
Agreed.
So you've been a part of this organization since the beginning. How have you seen it grow and evolve to support and empower the women of our firm?
In the beginning, we had several different women's committees that had somewhat of an overlap. Great mission, but from a programming and event standpoint, we were overlapping quite a bit, which I think complicated the messaging within the firm. So we realigned in the past year and were able to make our primary focus, obviously, power, again, on the empowerment, education, and amplifying women's voices. So our focus for 2023 is to bring all men and women to the table and ensure that we're educating everyone on the topic of gender bias.
Yeah, and I would say I kind of mentioned it briefly in my last answer, but just having the space to be able to have these open and safe conversations, I definitely think would be our biggest impact since our onset. We're still a new group. We're still kind of getting our feet under us, figuring out what our programming looks like. But our biggest goal that I think we've been able to achieve thus far is giving more of those open spaces for some tough conversations that might not have been happening previously.
I think there's been a lot of success with the different events that we've had. Can you share a little bit about some of the past events that the group has put on and ongoing events and programming that are coming up in the future?
Sure. I can talk a little bit about our Power Up Summit that we just recently had. It was the first annual Power Up Summit all-day event that the firm invested in all of our women to build confidence, to teach us all to how to give an elevator pitch to, externally, and to also, once again, bring women together from both offices. Even our remote workers were able to meet probably for the first time over several years due to COVID and build that female camaraderie that we really miss and that we need to try to develop within our culture here at SD.
Yeah, I mean, the Power Up Summit was a fantastic event, simply for the fact that there are so many females within this company, but we're such a large company, sometimes it's hard to even recognize how many there are. So it was really nice to be able to gather all together and be like, oh, you're the person that I talk to on these calls. It's so nice to meet you and just kind of get a sense of who you are as a person. Some other things that we've spearheaded is, so we started a book club that's been from the onset of the group. So we're going on our second year now. We've read tons of fantastic books. Our last book that we actually read was probably my favorite thus far, which was Unapologetically Ambitious by Shelley Archambault. The other initiatives that we have taken on was we started a Women in Arts series, and we actually had 2 different events within that series. The first being we went to an art gallery hosted by 2 female business owners, one in Pittsburgh and one in Columbus. And then again, just engaged in some open dialogue. And I think that one was more focused on how to network and how to better yourself in your business development. And then this past summer, we did a Women in Film screening where we screened RGB and had some discussion with the group. And then we also welcomed in an outside cinema expert from Columbus, Molly Kruzman, who is one of the members of Cinema Columbus here. So some great events going on, as well as we have been trying to keep up with a newsletter just to make sure that all of these events are getting out to the company, really just trying to spread as much awareness as we can.
So if people watching this video that don't work at Schneider Downs are interested in advancing women's rights, being a part of an organization, or even creating a similar program in their workplace, how would you recommend they get started?
My advice is to explore which facet of the women's movement that they're really interested in. There's so many different paths that you could take. One would be supporting women and young girls. Are they more interested in getting women elected into office or advocating the gender pay gap initiative? So then do some research on which of the nonprofits align with that interest. There's so much need for grassroots help within our communities. Just reach out to them and connect and let them know that you're interested and you're supporting their mission. In terms of developing a women's affinity group within a company, my advice would be to connect with one of the senior females on the leadership team and ask them if there's been any prior history in developing a women's group, and make sure that your leadership within the organization would truly support the concept.
Yeah, the only thing that I would add is Google is your friend. I personally found out about most of the organizations that I'm a part of going to networking events for young professionals. A lot of times they have sponsored booths with different organizations in the community that are looking for people to get involved. And I know it's difficult when you're first starting out to feel like it's a lot of donation based and you might not have the funds to provide donations. But there are volunteer opportunities out there. You just have to put yourself out there networking wise to kind of make those connections and ask those questions. And then once your foot's in the door, the possibilities are endless.
Well, thank you both so much for taking time to talk with me, letting our viewers get to know you and what we're doing at Schneider Downs to advance both this mission for the women at Schneider Downs, but also for our clients and prospective clients.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure getting to talk to you.
Thank you, Alissa.
Have a great day.
You too.
You too.